Snapshot.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Snapshot. I'm Tom.
I'm Riccardo.
And today we're talking to Mr. Greg Porper. So, Greg, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for anyone, just say anyone that hasn't heard of you or doesn't know who you are, how would you introduce yourself?
So my name is Greg Porper, writer, director, producer based in Los Angeles. I love comedy, all sorts of comedy, edgy comedy, offbeat comedy, awkward comedy. I was born and raised in New Jersey and then gradually made my way west across the United States. So I live here in Los Angeles with my wife, Rebecca, and my dog, Theo. And I recently just completed my first feature film, Don't Tell Larry.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And so our first question is, can you recall a moment, like a lightning bolt moment for you that made you want to make films or be involved with films, a shot within a film, a moment, just anything, a series of films? Just where can you recall where it all started for you?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't call it a lightning bolt moment. However, I as a teenager, I had a great interest in becoming a sports broadcaster and I wanted to be in front of the camera and I went to a sports broadcasting camp and while I was basically behind a desk simulating a broadcast in front of a crowd of people, I got very nervous and I realized I don't belong in front of the camera. I want to be behind the camera. But the reason for that too is that very same week, there's a show in the US called Sports Center on ESPN, and it's like all the recap of the sports events that happened that week. And there was this time where at that camp, we were shown an episode simultaneously on a different channel that was recording the director's room in the back with all the screens and someone deciding camera A, camera B. And it was just, there was so much action and energy behind the scenes, behind the camera. That was the first time I just got to see like, oh, there's a whole world behind there. There's an art form behind what we're seeing on the screen. And so that's like what initially started that interest. But then from there, I've always enjoyed comedy. I always watched The Simpsons and Seinfeld growing up. Those were two of my favorite shows. And I just love the comedy of those shows. So I was thinking, okay, there's that action that happens behind the camera. Plus, I love this sort of comedy. And that's something that I'm always trying to make people laugh. Whether I do or not, I always want to make people laugh. So how do I bridge the two together? So it wasn't as much of a lightning bolt moment as more of a, I know I don't want to do this and, oh, this thing exists and maybe I can marry them together.
Yeah, so from this, you moved to reality TV, let's say an area that not many storytellers likes. Some of them tend to dismiss it. So what did this world teach you and how that still serves you today as a filmmaker and writer?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who also dismisses it. And so it's a little ironic that I was working there and my first job out here when I was looking for work, someone who said to reach out once you moved out here because in Los Angeles in entertainment, it's more if you apply for a job, the first question, if they're interested in you, will be like, can you start tomorrow or can you start later today? And this company, this woman introduced me to someone who I'm still close with today, who connected me with someone at his company at the time. And it was a reality TV job. And I got the job. It was an internship, actually. And I said, I don't know if I should be taking this. I really want to do this. And I was told, like, no, you got something, go take it. I kind of just listened to that advice. I'm like, oh, you've been in the industry longer. Like, I can always pivot and transition. And so I started in reality TV. And then I love the people I worked with. It was very cool to see how a TV show gets made from that perspective, but also just to see the amount of networking that needs to happen between executives and agents and executives at networks. That's so much of how TV and movies get made is just based on those relationships. Like more deals were happening at lunches that my bosses were having than actual pitch meetings. So that's one thing on like more like the business side. But in terms of storytelling, and gradually over time, I did leave that reality TV world, but I'd always come back here and there, but more so to work on documentaries. And I worked on several documentaries in a position called a story producer. What's really interesting about a story producer is that all the footage that was captured by a team over perhaps months and months of work come into a team of people. And now we have to sift through footage. So for example, I worked on a documentary about California firefighters fighting wildfires in the northern part of the state. There was a camera crew following them for months, not knowing what sort of story there was going to be, that there were definitely going to be fires. Some days there might be nothing. Other days there might be an overwhelming amount. And so seeing all this footage and you're following actual firefighters putting out fires, you can't say, excuse me, can you hold so we can get a better angle? No, you're gonna work with what you have. And so you were forced to kind of write the story in the edits. And I had a great appreciation for that because the writing skill, like the storytelling skills still apply very much so. You still have the cork board with your different beats, your act 1, your act 2, your act 3, and you have to come up with a story based on the footage you have. Now, if there's going to be missing pieces, which inevitably there always were, that's the benefit of using voiceover or title cards. There's still devices to get the connective tissue that you want. And on some projects, ones that I would not really gravitate towards, you can really manipulate what that story is. And you see that in a lot of programs, let's say like Real Housewives or The Bachelor, where it's really scripted pretty much to a T, like where just like these are the things they want to happen. The specific lines of dialogue may not be the same, but what the producers kind of want to happen is going to happen. And in, the documentary world, I mean, there are projects that definitely I still believe do that, but I think the ones that I was working on, at least, I'm thankful for. There's like a genuine desire to be true to what the story is. But there are times where you're going to take a shot out of context. Let's say you're showing a fire burning somewhere, and maybe it wasn't the exact spot where that firefighter was talking when you cut away, but it just helps visually because instead of seeing a little flicker at the time, maybe seeing something a little bigger. I don't think that's actually changing what the story is, because the point is the urgency of that we have to, get this house saved is still the same regardless. So I would say those are kind of the elements there of like storytelling. It's like by writing the story after you have the footage.
And after this experience, how did you arrive to Don't Tell Larry? When did you started having the idea, okay, I want to do something, my project, something that I thought about it?
So I had made, while working in reality TV, I was constantly trying to make my own scripted comedies on the side. And so I'd be making a lot of web series, and one of those projects was Don't Tell Larry. It started off as a short form digital series, and it was not based on any individual, this character of Larry, but the name Don't Tell Larry was based on a phrase I overheard in a meeting where, long story short, there was a man named Larry who was going to pitch some projects to our team. And the kind of the inside joke was, don't tell Larry, but we're probably not going to buy any of his ideas. The guy Larry is a very sweet man. It has nothing to do with him at all. It's just, I heard that phrase, don't tell Larry. Just like, there's something there. And like, I wrote it down. Like, I have a list. Anytime I hear something funny, my wife oftentimes says just very random funny quotes, like in context of something that happens in real life. And I always clock it. I'm like, oh, I could use that for something. And so that phrase made me think that there's something here. But it's like, well, who is Larry? And what are we not telling him? So that was like the initial thought process there.
And how hard was to turn Don't Tell Larry from a digital series into a feature film? Like, what were the biggest challenges, and also the things that you had to give up in the process?
Did you say that last part again?
What were the biggest challenges and things you had to give up in the process? Because I think a TV series can be a feature film.
Oh, so the web series itself ended up being two coworkers who kept secrets from their third coworker, Larry, who had a bit of anger issues, and the things that they were saying to him kind of kept
Just
escalating, were like worse and worse and worse. And he would always walk in right when they were talking about him. So to take that concept into a movie, first we actually tried to turn it into a TV show, but the idea of constantly escalating, it really was challenging. And also, it's the sort of thing that if you kept doing it for a long period of time, eventually, like, just there's only so far you can go in the end. And so thinking about it as a movie, now you have like a clear beginning and an end, and you have 90 minutes. So that at least gave you the framework of how can you still escalate that story. So from a creative standpoint, we took elements from the web series. We knew we wanted to start at, originally it was I forgot to invite a coworker to a company party. The movie is I intentionally did not invite him to a company party, which, believe it or not, that little change has complete ripple effects that affect page 1 all the way to page 90. And then at the very end, we knew we wanted to end it with someone's going to die. We'll just say that. So we go like, but because of this party, in a way, like the ripple effect. So that was a fun challenge, knowing we had the beginning, we had the end, and there's a couple of beats in the middle. There's a scene in a supply closet where characters have to drink something they may not want to drink. And then there's another moment that I think is rather shocking that happens around, 2/3 of the way through the movie. Like, we knew those beats were going to exist. And so that at least helped the framework of how we tell this movie. But the in-between beats changed quite a bit as we were still trying to figure out who the other character was. Our two leads, Susan and Patrick, we knew who Larry was from the very beginning. Larry, we always knew. But those other two characters were always changing. So, for example, if you forgot to invite someone to a party, that's one type of a person. If you're intentionally not inviting that person to a party, you're another type of person. And that changes everything. The reason why, because therefore, but, like, you do something, therefore this happens, but that happens. Every beat changes when you change like one little thing about the character. So we had a lot of page one rewrites trying to make this puzzle work, because there were certain beats we knew we wanted to hit. And we had a lot of setups, builds and payoffs that we also wanted, which is like little story beats. And so it was always like, how do we weave everything together and still keep what we want to keep, even when we're changing who the characters are? So creatively, that was a big struggle, but we eventually landed on it. It just took a while. And then in terms of just lifestyle and sacrifices, I mean, I worked these reality TV jobs so I could save up. And I had gotten rid of my car. I drive a car that's over 20 years old currently. I did whatever I could to kind of limit my expenses to make it so that I could take time off and not have to work full time to actually be able to get this movie off the ground, because you have to be able to fully dedicate yourself to this if you want to get it made.
Wow. So how long was the producing process of the movie?
The producing process ended up being, I think, 90% almost of how I've spent my time over the last 4 years or so,
Wow.
because it is everything from, and again, I originally, the thinking was, because I had a partner I worked with and we wrote and directed as a team. But then when it came to producing, we realized, well, no one's good. Like, we need someone who's going to champion the movie and see it all the way through, and who has the most skin in the game. And truthfully, it ended up being me, because the people who invested in this movie were people from my life, whether I knew them directly or they were introduced to me, because I spent months and months and months reaching out to everyone I've ever met, pretty much, and telling them that I wanted to make a movie and would they be interested in getting involved. And the other thing too, because these are, regardless of who the person is, I'm not a liar. Even though I wrote a movie about someone who's a liar, I cannot lie. And so I'm telling people, like, if you look, I'm asking if you'd be interested in investing in this movie, and I'm not telling you that you're going to be making a lot of money and that this is a good investment. If you're looking from a financial standpoint, you may not want to invest in this movie. But if you want to help support the arts, if you want to invest, and I say in me, in my career, and knowing that this is first opportunity to get involved in future projects, or if you want to write off the losses that you're going to incur off the gains that you're going to get from your, other investments, there's that's some reasons to invest as well. And so it just took a long time trying to get a bunch of people to invest in the movie. And then from there, it went from, well, then now we have a certain amount of money. Okay, that's enough to actually then make the movie. But then how do you make a movie?
That's
and then it was just,
impressive.
yeah. So that took a long time to build. And then we realized, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Talking about investors, I mean, I tried to find some information online, and I read you found 30 investors for the movie. But who were they? They were all producers, or even your friends or family.
Yeah.
And how was the budget of the movie? Because I couldn't find it online.
Yeah, so it was ultimately a combination of family, extended family. The first money in was from myself and from my partner. That was the other big thing, actually, too, with investors. The fact that you're putting your money in and you're taking that risk with them speaks volumes. So it came from us, from saving up money, but yes, ended up being from some family, some close family and some extended family. It came from some friends I went to school with who ended up having a very good run with Bitcoin. And I said, hey, you want to do another risky investment? Try this. And there was that. And then there's other people who just wanted the cachet, like to be involved in a movie. I made it very clear that for those who invested in the movie, I will be as open and transparent on the process. If you wanted to come to set, you could. Now, granted, we were filming during COVID, so no one really took me, like 2 people took me up on that offer, understandably so. And I would just keep them updated, show them how a movie is made. I think there's just a lot of interest in just being involved in the project in some capacity. And some people ended up saying, hey, this isn't right for me, because I pitched, hundreds of people probably to actually get to those 36 investors. But a lot of people said, this isn't for me, but I know someone else who might be interested. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of like through a connection of a connection. Like, you should talk to this person. They're looking for something like this, or they've always wanted to make a movie and they never did and they regret it, so they might be interested in it now. So there's a lot of those connections, and it took a long time, but eventually it got to the point where we were able to make the movie. And, ultimately, between investments and in-kind, I wouldn't say donations per se, but it's in-kind services. So whether it's certain locations, because we ended up filming in Texas, certain locations, we got a lower deal, or we got a better deal to give them some stake in the project as well. And ultimately we ended up being around $1 million when all is said and done.
Wow.
Yeah. And that includes the
Well
in-kind
done.
investments, right? Yeah. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Really impressive, honestly.
Tiring, exhausting. Sorry, it's I think it's warm here because I shut the windows so my glasses keep fogging up. Yeah.
So moving to the first social segment, this is like a question for the reels that we will take out of the episode to like advertise the episode on social media. So if you can answer like in 1 minute, 2 minutes, so we can do the reel. So the question is, what is the craziest thing that you have ever seen or happened to you on a set?
So on the Don't Tell Larry film set, I will say that we had a scene in which we needed a ladybug to land on a character's shoulder. And when we wrote it, we had the intention that we were going to CGI this moment. We had 3 moments in the script where this moment was going to happen. The ladybug lands on the shoulder. Our character thinks it's a sign of good luck. She makes a decision. It ends up being the exact wrong decision at that moment. When we were filming the scene at a dumpster, the first time where the ladybug was supposed to land on her shoulder, we mapped it out so we knew where she was going to use her hand to show where the ladybug was. Long story short, while we were filming the actual scene, an actual ladybug landed on her shoulder during filming while the camera was recording.
Oh,
and
wow, that's incredible.
She played it.
Yeah.
She played it off. She acted as if it was completely natural.
Wow.
And that's the shot of the movie. And not only that, there's a moment where then the ladybug flies away, and the ladybug literally flies away the exact moment it needed to. It was like, that was chills for everyone who saw that. We could not believe what happened. And that moment was so real
incredible.
and authentic. Yeah, it was
those
so authentic
are moments,
that we're like,
those are moments that you just can't fabricate at all. You just can't.
no,
Yeah.
and
No, they're amazing.
no.
Yeah.
And so we got rid of the 2 other moments in the movie where we were going to do that, because you can't do CGI one time and real the other time. So
wow, that's incredible.
It was special.
Awesome. So this is sort of more of a question about the writing process. You might have kind of like covered this already, but it's sort of more of a question to get some insight into kind of writing comedy. So when you're writing a comedy, in your experience, are you 100% prioritizing a plot that's always kind of forward moving, or are you focusing on gags? Is it like sort of plot over gags, or gags over plot, or kind of, because obviously when it comes to comedy, you can have the sort of the airplane Zucker, where it's more like wall-to-wall gags, and then you can have comedies that where the plot is kind of primary and the gags are secondary. I was just curious as to how that writing process kind of falls for you.
Yeah, generally I'll say start with the plot. I know where we're going to start and we're going to end. But there's always going to be certain jokes that I'm like, all right, there's this joke, I really want to find a way to work it in. But a lot of times most of the jokes are found within the plot that I've established. So I'm definitely starting with plots and with characters. But there are a few times where, because again, like, but the words "Don't Tell Larry," I said, okay, I want to create something with these words. "Don't Tell Larry" itself's not a joke, but there's other times where there is a joke, and I just say, like, I want to find a way to make it work within this plot.
Oh, awesome. Cool. So you'd mentioned the power of the page one rewrite already. I just wanted to ask where if you can pinpoint when that moment kind of happens, when you know it's time to kind of rewrite. What kind of like triggers that for you when you know you need to kind of start again?
Yeah, it definitely knowing when to start over and have a page one rewrite varies from project to project. Generally, I would say that when there's something that I want to include in the script that I realized was not in there originally, or if there's something I want to take out of the script that exists, the first thing I do is I map out and say, okay, well, if I take out this element, how does that affect every other thing that happens? And oftentimes, and especially in the case of Don't Tell Larry, it ends up being, oh, there's a ripple effect, and we have to start on page one to do it over again. There's other times where if there's something I want to add in, I'll say, okay, I'm adding it in. How can I keep the structure and framework as best I can? But there's oftentimes you realize you're really trying to force a square peg in a round hole and it's not going to work. And so instead of trying to force something in that's probably not going to work, what if you just have a clean slate? And so it's at least first giving myself the ability to try not to do the page one rewrite. But when I realize that, no, like the only way this beat I want to put in or this beat that I want to take out, it only works if it serves the story best to start over. That's when I say, okay, let's start over.
Of course. So you always go in prepared for the script to be kind of like a movable feast, basically, where it needs to be kind of like it's changing all the time and stuff. Cool. Awesome.
It needs to be, and it's changing. Yeah, it's changing during production, and it's changing during the edit. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So talking about the productions, I mean, you had really a lot of problems raising monies, and then you found, third investors. But if someone will tell you, okay, for your second movie, you will have infinite budget and total freedom, what kind of movie will you do and why?
I'd probably do a very similar type of movie I made in terms of tone, just with more exciting set pieces. Probably build our own set so we really have flexibility, so we're not literally working in rooms that are 8x8 where we're all crammed into a room and we're forced to keep it a close up, or we don't have a lot of wiggle room. Like I would do a broad comedy for sure, but I would love to, let's say if it's something that takes place in an office again, I'd love to be able to construct the office from scratch and let it be as big as it needs to be and allow ourselves to have a team of people that could, whether it's a crane chart, something like through the office that allows us to kind of just follow the characters as we're moving around, just like no constraints on locations, I think. And it could be anywhere, but I think as long as it's a broad comedy and I'm able to tell jokes, I'm satisfied. It's just, the bigger the budget, obviously there's bigger problems when it becomes a bigger budget, but if there's no budget limitations whatsoever, I'd say like, well, how can we make each shot as dynamic as we possibly can? And I say that regardless of what the budget is, it's just when you have a bigger budget, you're not restrained in those ways that you are.
Nice answer. So let's move to the second social segment. So what fictional character from cinema history will you go to dinner with and why?
Yeah, so I say, like, do we count Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm? Is he cinema history or no? That's TV, but if not him, I'd say like
we
Forrest
can change
Gump.
the parameters. It's fine to fit Larry David in.
No, I'll say
it's okay.
but I can also say Forrest Gump, because Forrest Gump is going to have endless stories and he's going to be full of material that I would want to mine too. So selfishly, I'd want to take some of his stories and turn it into something, because it seems like he's lived, 50 lives in one life.
So Forrest Gump for the inspirations.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look, okay,
and he also just seems like a nice guy. He seems like a nice guy too.
Oh yeah, he is.
For sure. I want to get his insight on the last 50 years of history where the movie kind of ends.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's Gumpisms. Yeah. Cool. That's a good answer.
So, you, as you mentioned before, you had like career, like working with producers, working for companies, and TV. So how important is, in your opinion, for an artist today to speak the language of the marketing? And do you feel comfortable in that world, or would you prefer to be like only a writer?
I would definitely say for me, when I'm writing something, I'm thinking about the marketing. I'm thinking about how this will get perceived. Now, at times I'll say, I don't care if a genre blend of a movie is not the best for the marketplace. Like I was told before writing Don't Tell Larry, and I told people what it was about, and they're saying, well, it's a comedy and it's a bit of a thriller, and you have to stick to one. It has to be one or the other. That was something that I said, creatively, that's not what we want to do with this movie. But as a result, we have to think carefully. We still have to think carefully about the marketing. And so I still think there's, when you're making something, it's one thing to make something, but if no one then sees it, I don't know. I'm making something not for me, but also just for people to watch and enjoy. So I think being able to promote your movie and to promote your movie in very creative ways, it allows you to still have has control over how it gets released in a lot of ways. And that's something that's important for me, is to still have control over the project, especially when it's just something that I care so passionately about. It's one thing if I'm for hire on another project and I'm doing it for a paycheck. But in the case of here, where if there was any movie I could make in my life and I only could make one movie, it was the movie that I just made. And so because of that, I want to be able to see it through, and I want to be able to dictate how it goes out there in the marketplace and how it gets promoted. And it's been exhausting, but the movie came out a few months ago, and every day for, 3 to 4 months, I was posting something new on our channels on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, every single day. It was exhausting, but not everyone sees every piece of content every single day. And it was tiring. And for some people, I'm sure it was like, okay, enough of this. But for other people, it was like, oh, okay, I didn't see this the other day. And so I think it's great that, to be able to push your movie out there, and then in your style of humor is just another way to express yourself.
And it worked, because if you're here, it's because of that. I saw your post on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Which is awesome. That's so cool.
And that's interesting. Sorry, I mean to like jump in with this. I was just kind of curious. So, would you say the majority of people that you've talked to are kind of not that open to kind of genre mashing? Or I was just curious as to what the ratio is of people you've talked to that are willing to take risks, and people that are like an absolute no to kind of like genre mashing and stuff. It was just a personal curiosity, really. But
the people who's tended to try to sway us away from a genre blend are people who are producers who are trying to sell their own movies, or executives that are sales agents or distributors who are saying, well, to get into the marketplace, and you're trying to have an international entity buy your project. They just want to know, is it a comedy? Is it a thriller? Is it a horror? And who's in it? And who are the people in it? And that's like all they care about.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's what box. And but when you talk to consumers and people who just like to watch stuff, so many people have said it. This is so refreshing. I haven't seen something like this. Thank you. Like I think there's such a disconnect between what people want and what executives think people want.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was about to say seems like quite a big discrepancy. So
yeah,
cool. Thank you. So, as someone who is a writer, producer, and director, how challenging would you say it is to move between those kind of roles? Does it come naturally to you, or do you find that you need to take one hat off, put another one on? If that makes sense, is it challenging or easy? Or
it was very difficult to take off the producing hat while also writing and directing. That being said, during the production parts of the movie, there was help on the producing side, where it didn't feel like I was on an island by myself. There was a team of people that helped assemble, put things together. We were filming in Texas. I'm from California. There were people there who helped crew up and help just oversee things so we could really divide and conquer. But still, I'm on set and I'm thinking, I remember very clearly, we are spending 3 to 4 hours, because there's just delays, trying to get this one shot of a character pulling into a parking spot. And I'm thinking, this shot is so insignificant. We're spending so much time on this. We are now not going to be able to film the stuff at night that we wanted to shoot, because we're going to run out of hours. And so that's all of a sudden now I'm like not as focused in the moment. And I'm saying, let's just get the shot however we need to quickly, because this is a more important scene we want to be able to dedicate time to. And I want to make sure the actors have enough room to work with. When you're just filming a car moving, you're not you're not relying on performances. And I think that's more like where the producer side kicks in. Like I think when I direct, I love directing and with the actors and working with them on performances. That's what I really love doing that. And I also think about when I'm writing a script, how can we get this done within the parameters, like within the budget that we have? So I don't think that producer's hat ever turns off. But when writing the script, I initially, like the first draft of any script, I'm just writing the story that I want to tell. And then oftentimes I then have to dial back.
Thank you. So what's the number one lesson that you could impart to any budding young screenwriters that want to throw their hat into the ring, if there is anything that you've learned, the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Yeah. If you want to take on something like making a movie, are you willing to, I'd say, do whatever it takes to get the movie made, but prioritize that movie to a point where you are working on it, thinking about it all day, every day, be for years? Is that something like, are you passionate enough about the idea to move it forward? And if the answer is no, don't do it, or keep working on that script or that project until you get to that point where you are so excited about it. If you are not excited about it, don't keep moving forward with it, because you are going to be spending all of your time on it, and it's going to become your life.
So
Brilliant.
connected to this, connected to this, let's say that a young writer shows you a terrible script, but you see that there is a lot of art in it. What do you tell him, and how you tell him that he needs to change some stuff?
Well, often I'll always start by saying I don't think any one person is right about something. I'm only one person with an opinion, so I usually actually say that if it's a note in terms of story and something I would do differently, I would acknowledge that and say, like, I personally don't think this makes a lot of sense because XYZ, but I'd love to know your reasoning behind it. Sometimes I'll ask the person, even if I don't agree with it. I don't want to put someone down, but I would challenge them and say, well, what was the reason that you made this decision? I think that's one thing. And then the other thing I would say, in terms of something where there is a structural beat or something that doesn't make sense, that's when I would more so say, like, I think you should look at this over. Your main character doesn't have a goal, or this scene doesn't lead into this scene, and it just feels like a series of moments that don't really connect. Perhaps you could rethink that. I don't think I'd discourage someone and say, like, you're a terrible writer, don't write this again. I also probably wouldn't say, hey, send me the draft once you make those changes. If it's someone where I see potential, I'd say, it's something that I just think is interesting, or I just want to be helpful because there's been people who have helped me before, I want to be able to give it back, I'd say, feel free to make those changes. I'm happy to take a look at it again, and let's talk about how we can keep improving the script.
Oh, brilliant. And so this is our third sort of social question for reels and stuff, and there's a pretty big one. If you could work with any director in the history of cinema, alive or dead, who would you work with and why? You can only have one.
I would say Mel Brooks. I love Mel Brooks. I love his comedy. I would love to meet, and Mel Brooks is still alive. I'd love to be able to meet him and talk with him. I have been in the same room as him one time in my life, but I was one of 500 people, so there was no way that I was going to be able to actually speak with him.
No.
Yeah. But my favorite, he was speaking up. Sorry?
Yep.
When it was
where it was at a theater in Beverly Hills. It was at a film festival, a documentary about Gene Wilder, and he spoke on stage. So I'm in the audience. There's a chance that when the show, same room. When the show is over, he's gonna have to exit, but it's gonna be some back door. Maybe I can go to the back door of that building, but I gotta be realistic. The man is in his 90s, and it's after 7 p.m., so it's gonna be hard to get his attention then. But my favorite movie is probably Blazing Saddles. So he directed that, and I'd love to just be able to chat with him. And he's made so many great movies, and just seems like a real good guy.
Curious, because Spaceballs 2 is happening, isn't it? Is he directing that or writing that? I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just curious, because I think I heard it was happening a while ago, and I sort of confused. Like, I know Spinal Tap 2 just happened as well, so like legacy sequels are sort of happening all over the place. So
they are.
I wasn't sure if you guys knew. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I believe he might be like a producer on it, and probably my guess is a consultant on the writing side. I doubt he's the director of it, but I don't know for sure. I'm not positive, but I don't think curious.
He is. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
talking about comedy, what do you think about the remake of The Naked Gun? Do you approve it or not?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I went to the theater and I was so happy that there was this just irreverent, silly comedy
Mhm.
that was made, because we need that. We so need that. Things are pretty depressing right now
Yeah.
in the world. Like, we just need to make people laugh. That's why I made Don't Tell
Exactly.
Larry in the first place, was just to be an escape. And
Yeah.
that's what Naked Gun was. Naked Gun was a fabulous escape. There was so many silly moments, but to be in a room with other people laughing, and certain people laughing at certain jokes, other people not laughing at others, it just was really interesting to just
Mhm.
experience, what's working, what's not working, because you get direct feedback with a comedy.
Mm.
The audience
Yeah.
either laughs at the joke or they don't. And so that was a
Mm.
lot of fun. I totally approve it. I hope there's more comedies. I hope they make 20 more Naked Guns.
I still need to see the new Naked Gun. I still haven't seen it. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but so I
Yeah,
need to
it's fun.
I need to check it out. But I've heard,
It's
I've heard it's very good.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, so and that brings us to our last question. What are your future projects? What else do you have in the pipeline as of now? Anything you're developing or anything
So
you can talk about? Yeah.
yeah, so right now, currently I am contracted to work on, I can't speak too much about it yet, but basically it's an office style comedy, but with real life coworkers at a company in Florida. So I'm actually going to be filming in a few weeks to go out there with them. It's short form digital, so it's actually going to be shot vertically, and probably be like 2-minute episodes. But I'm very excited for that, just because it's with real life people, and the banter. It'll just be really interesting to see what that's like to work with non-actors. That's one thing. But then on a bigger scale with the movie, I have a Christmas comedy that is like, it feels like if Don't Tell Larry met Meet the Parents. I'll just say that right now. It involves what happens if the wrong person follows you home for Christmas. That I just think is a lot of fun. It's a broad comedy. I don't want to speak too much about it yet, but
No,
basically
that's
that's something
cool.
I'm
That's
excited about.
yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds
I'm
fun.
excited about that, and I hope that will be, the follow-up feature.
Hmm. Oh, brilliant. We wish you the best of
Yeah.
luck with it. We can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. And I believe that's it. And that's Riccardo. Do you have
Yeah, thank you so
any
much,
other
Greg, to
questions?
come to the
Brilliant. Thank you so much,
podcast.
Greg. You've been amazing and lovely.
So-
Thank you.
It was a pleasure
Cool.
speaking with you
Sure,
both. I
yeah.
hope my foggy glasses aren't too
It's okay.
annoying.
No worries. It's fine.
Don't worry.
I have that
Don't
problem
worry.
myself as well. Sometimes I don't have the. I mean, it's
I think
not
it's
like
because
very.
if we have the
Yeah,
if we
that's
have the
fine.
air on, it'll probably be too noisy. If we have the windows open, it'll be noisy. But
That's
otherwise,
okay. Yeah, I hope that wasn't too much of a problem for you. But it's great on our end. Yeah, thank you again.
Very good.
Lovely to talk to you.
Snapshot.